Waiting isn't fun, especially in recruiting, because we want everything right now. But for LSU and five-star Dominic McKinley, waiting might be the key for a massive flip. And today I got Shea Dixon from the Bengal Tiger to talk about Dom McKinley finally setting that OV to LSU. We'll cover that. Plus, Texas A&M commitment, well, former Texas A&M commitment, Coen Ecko was in town. Terry Bussey flip is still on the table, and I want to get Shea's thoughts on Bryce Underwood making a final visit to Alabama. Let's get it started. LSU fans, hit that subscribe button for me. We're trying to grow this page. You guys love recruiting. I love talking LSU recruiting. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. Okay, let's bring on Shea Dixon from the Bengal Tiger. Now, Shea, you spoke to five-star Dominic McKinley's mother over the weekend and got some special intel. We're going to get to that in a minute, but first I want to check in on another Texas A&M commitment that also announced a February signing, and that's five-star athlete Terry Bussey. He's been to campus numerous times this fall. What does it mean to LSU that he's announcing in February?
Well, it means they've got more time to recruit him. Obviously, they've already had an official visit, so you would want to get him back to campus again. It would be an unofficial visit. But LSU staff has stayed on him very hard. Look, this has been a guy who's been a star at Timpson. He can play on either side of the ball. They've told him that. A lot of people like him at DB. That's a need for LSU. But really, the A&M coaching situation, Josh, we've seen, and we'll talk about Dom McKinley here in a second. Weston Davis, a five-star offensive tackle, flipped to LSU. Gabe Relaford, a four-star top 100 player on On3, committed to A&M, flipped to LSU. Coen Ecko, who was committed to A&M, backed off that commitment. He spent his final weekend at LSU. Now we're talking about guys like Bussey and McKinley waiting until February. It just seems to me that even with the Mike Elko hire in place, Josh, and the staff being put together, that these guys who are not sure what they want to do for certain are willing to wait until February.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's huge for LSU because let's be honest, they probably weren't going to sign these guys if they were signing in December, but now that they move it to February, they have a real chance. You hit on Coen Ecko at the top. Now, he decommitted from A&M last week, was on campus. LSU and Auburn seem to be the favorites here. I know he'd been trending toward Auburn even while he was still committed to A&M. What are you hearing coming off this LSU visit, though?
Look, this is a guy that LSU was recruiting heavily during his process, and he committed to A&M, and now that he's backed off, he's making a couple of final visits. He was at the Iron Bowl, then he backs off the A&M commitment. As you noted, Josh, that Auburn is the team trending on the On3 RPM. Will that change? Does LSU trend here late? He's really the only high school prospect we're watching right now for LSU that isn't committed anywhere and could sign this week. Like we said, Bussey, McKinley, they're waiting. It seems like Eccles is ready to make a decision. Here's the deal. You have to manage that 85 overall man scholarship limit. And not only does LSU have portal guys that they're looking at other positions, guys still on roster have not decided if they're going to enter the portal, return, go pro, whatever it might be. You know you're signing 26 high school, one JUCO player this coming week. So you get a good feel for the numbers. But in that mix is 5 offensive linemen, and they like all of them. So would you take 6 offensive linemen out of high school? It seems like a big number. I think it's just going to come down to how they think the numbers work out and then really how hard they're going to push for Eccles. So right now I'd say the coming days will tell us more. Auburn was the team that he is going to end up at entering the weekend. Now, does LSU push enough to make a charge and maybe pull off a real late snag here?
Yeah, it would be huge to get an offensive lineman this late in the game. We'll see what happens there. Now let's talk about five-star Dominic McKinley, the number 1 player in the state of Louisiana. And honestly, Shea, we talked a lot throughout the summer into the fall about Dominic McKinley off the record. You never wanted to talk about him on the show because you honestly didn't think that there was much going on between him and LSU, but that seems like it's changed, and you recently spoke to Dominic McKinley's mother. They set up an official visit. So what are LSU's chances to keep him home when that February signing day rolls around?
Well, they're higher than I guess they would have been before when really, as you noted, Josh, when we would talk about it, I always say track the visits and over time and track their actions, not their words. And Dominic is a man of not many words, but I did catch up with Angie his mom, and she was great and broke down kind of the whole process and their thought of waiting until February because they want to see what A&M staff looks like. They had in-homes with everyone from LSU to Oklahoma to Texas to Syracuse. This is our first time going through the recruiting process. He's not graduating right now, so there is no rush to do it next week if he wants to say, hey, look, I want to see what the coaches look like at each spot. Relationships are paramount here. She repeated that time and time again. That tells me they want to know, hey, who's the D-line coach? What does the defensive staff look like? And those are some questions that are still unanswered at places like LSU, for instance. So they'll get him in town January 12th weekend. That will be his official visit. And that is big news because to go back to where you started at, Josh, he gave official visits to everybody in June, but not LSU. He announces his decision in September. LSU wasn't even viewed as maybe one of the top two teams in the mix there late when it was kind of Texas and A&M battling it out and Oklahoma was in it. And then they played 7 home games. He never came to a single one of them. So there was this feeling that, okay, he doesn't seem to have that much interest. Well, following the in-home visit, his mother, Angie, told me that she could tell his interest in LSU is peaking a little bit to where he's got a good relationship now with Brian Kelly. He likes Frank Wilson, and LSU will see if coaching changes are coming on defense and obviously what that means to a recruitment like Dominic McKinley's.
Man, so did LSU just kind of fall into some luck here that he's going to decide in February and they still have that official visit? Or do you think this was some strategy by them to kind of hold on to this late and try to use it in January?
The strategy was to hold on to it late and maybe use it in December. And then when he decided, hey, I'm going to push it back to February, it made it a bit easier. And also, Acadiana, his high school team, played in the state title game, which was just a week ago. So this was his first open weekend. And Angie, his mother, said that he had a prominent role in the annual Acadiana era church Christmas pageant or play or whatever it might be. So your 5-star D lineman is out there singing in the local Christmas play. So he wasn't going to skip out on that. She said that was a prior engagement, and they are very firm on, hey, look, we're going to wait until February. Let's set up some more visits, and that means more in-homes will come as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, whether you chalk it up to strategy or luck, I think it plays to LSU's chances here in January and February to land Dominic McKinley. Let's talk about one more item, and it's a big one. Bryce Underwood. He's been trending to LSU for weeks now, but this weekend, the last visit weekend before his decision, which is coming January 6th, Underwood shows up in Tuscaloosa. What do you make of this Alabama visit, and how does it impact LSU's chances to land Underwood?
Well, this wasn't going to be easy. There wasn't going to be, after Michigan, we felt like waved the white flag, right, when they took Carter Smith 2 months before Underwood's even announcing. And we talked to E.J. Holland, Zach Libby, all of our on-3 guys up there, and they had maintained, hey, look, we think it's LSU. Now, I had said all along, I'm not putting in an on-3 RPM pick till the dead period. I want to see what school he pops up at. Would it be Michigan again? Would it be a Florida State? Would it be some huge NIL program out there that's tossing money around? And it was Bama, a school he had only visited one time. I think it reaffirms to me, Josh, that the SEC is what he's looking at. That's from the very start. He said, I like the SEC. I've got eyes on the SEC. So to visit Bama at the end isn't a big surprise. I'll line it up for you this way. LSU knew of the visit ahead of time. The Underwood family told them. And you've got to remember that in the span of 4 months, he visited LSU's campus this offseason 3 different times. 2 of those came once on his parents' anniversary, once on his mother's birthday. Every time he had the whole family with him. Then there was all the chatter of, well, he never made it to a game at Michigan all year. He wasn't visiting other schools for games. I know he dropped in at Colorado and Penn State at another point, but finally made it to Michigan at the end. Remember, one of his first visits was Auburn. He was at LSU for that game when they won in Tiger Stadium, and that was a big visit weekend for him. So should you be worried that a school like Alabama gets the number 1 overall player to campus right before his decision? Sure, it's Bama. Sure. They have a great track record of recruiting. At the same time, Julian Sayin moved in this weekend. Like, they're not desperate for a 5-star quarterback or some guy who's going to save the program. They recruit really well nonstop. So if I'm an LSU fan, I say, hey, look, LSU's put in all this work. Everyone's called in the leader. Oh, and toss in there, Josh, they just won a second Heisman at quarterback in 5 years. They finished with the number 1 offense in America, and they return every coach from the offense for next season and into the future. So I still think leading into January 6th, let's see how the dust settles from the Bama visit, then go from there. I still think LSU is the team to beat. If Bama is able to beat out LSU by simply just getting 2 visits, one being at the very end, then it wasn't meant to be. I still think that LSU's put in enough work here to get it across the finish line on January 6th. Here's the thing, Josh. He's a junior. We got another year left, so we'll be talking about this plenty.
We will. We definitely will. But this first decision matters a lot. And hey, first
No
and
doubt.
only decision, it most likely, you know how these things go with the quarterbacks. But, you know, for those LSU fans scoring at home, I still am confident with my picks. I have George McIntyre, the number 2 ranked quarterback in the country, projected to land at Alabama. And I have Bryce Underwood, the number 1 quarterback in the country, projected to land at LSU. And nothing this weekend so far has led me to change that. And especially after talking to you, Shea Dixon. Appreciate you stopping by the Inside Scoop and kind of giving us some intel into this final visit weekend and also Bryce Underwood's big decision. Appreciate you.
Yes, and I'll say real quick, Josh, that you hit it on the head. Remember, LSU's only recruited 2 quarterbacks the whole way in 2025, McIntyre and Underwood. I feel confident they're going to get one of them. I'm still on the Underwood train right now, but if something goes south, they have recruited McIntyre very, very well.
All right. Well, give me a heads up if I need to change my pick. But otherwise, I'm not planning on it.
Let's let the dust settle and see what happens. Thanks for having me on, Josh.
All right. See you, Shea. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.